Hello and welcome, friends. My name is Lynn, and this is my holiday gift giving guide. If budget is not a constraint, if space isn't a constraint for you, and you're looking for those big ticket items that right around this time of year, especially with Black Friday deals coming out, might be a good time to start shopping for those things that maybe you've been saving up for or that you just want to get a good bargain on. And what I've collected in this video are my top picks for the things that I've used that I feel are tried and true, top-notch quality, but they might have just a spendier price tag on them. And for a lot of these things, if I had known that I would love them so much, I probably would have just started with these items. Now, bear in mind, as I'm giving you my opinion, I don't necessarily craft for a living. That's definitely a goal of mine, but I do create a lot of content for YouTube. So when I am looking for supplies that I craft with and that I show in my videos, there are a couple of different things that I'm looking for. I want products that are going to work the first time, so I don't have to do any tricky editing to magically, through the magic of the camera, make it seem like it worked better than it actually did. I would actually just prefer that it worked great and then there's less video editing after the fact. And I also don't believe in video trickery. So I don't want to make something seem like it's as effortless or works better than it really does in real life. So if I'm using something on camera, it's because I know it to be reliable and I know that it's going to work effortlessly so that it's less editing time for me, but also easier to follow along for you if you're watching one of my tutorial videos. And I also am a little bit cognizant of what presents well on camera as well. So that is something that maybe is less of a concern for you if you're just crafting for yourself as a hobby. You don't have to worry too much about how it looks to other people. And so keep that in mind as I'm giving you my opinions on these products, because I am looking at it from those two perspectives. And that might not necessarily align with your highest priorities when you're looking to make a purchase. But what I'm going to cover in this video are the major craft supplies that I feel like are essential in my craft room. So I'm talking about my favorite die cutting machine, my favorite stamp positioning tool, my favorite paper cutting equipment, scoreboards, and work surface. And I kind of feel like maybe the place to start is the work surface, because this is sort of where everything happens. And if you've noticed, if you've been watching my videos here on YouTube for a very long time, you'll know that I transitioned from I think it was a Fisker's self-healing mat to the silicone scrapbook.com mat, and where I have landed is on the Glassboard Studio magnetic craft mat, and I've never looked back since. This is where I am very cognizant of how things present on camera. I like to have a very nice clean work surface and one that's easy to clean up too, because a lot of times you'll even see me doing the cleanup on camera in my videos, because most of my videos are sped up, and so it's just like a fraction of a second just to spray it down, wipe it, in terms of what you're seeing. But even in terms of for me to clean up the glass mat, it's super fast and easy. Where in the past, if I was using, say, a self-healing mat, I might have needed a little extra time to clean the surface before moving on to the next step. And just as a video content creator, that might have meant having to pause the camera, do the cleanup, start the camera back up, and then continue with my crafting. And And I find that for convenience and how easy and fast it is to clean up the glass board, I really don't have to do that. I don't mind showing it on camera, how quick and easy it is to clean up. So that means that you could do your inky techniques on here. You can do, you know, ink blending, ink smushing, all the things. And because it's glass and it's non-porous, just a quick spritz of water will clean it up really easily too. You can take something like a dry or a wet erase marker and write on here, make notes to yourself if you need, and it's really great. It's mostly, if you gave it more time to dry, you could touch it and it wouldn't wipe away, but you can just give it a quick spritz and quickly wipe it away and clean it up. So I like it for that. You could even take a Sharpie marker and mark on this as well, and then just use a little bit of alcohol. Just spritz some alcohol in here and clean it off. If you get, like me, sometimes there's some glue stickies, residue. That's easy to clean away as well. I use Goo Gone. So just in terms of for cleanup, I just put a little bit of Goo Gone, that's the yellow liquid in here, into a little mini mister, and I just spritz, and this will help to remove any glue residue. And for anything super stubborn, you can just take a razor, something like this, and you can just scrape up anything super stubborn. And it's okay, this isn't going to scratch up your glass because the metal razor is not harder as a material than glass, so it's not going to scratch up. Now there are some natural gems like a diamond so I don't wear my engagement ring because it's diamond and it could scratch my glass surface here. So that is something to keep in mind. So there are some gemstones that are harder than glass, and so you want to be cognizant and aware of that. But in terms of just if you feel like any little glue, dried glue that's not wiping off, you can just use your anything like a metal blade like this will scrape that off, and then you can wipe it off. So cleanup is really easy and fantastic. I don't tend to use the glue lines. I have a whole product review on the Glassboard if you want to check that out. It's a separate video. I'm going to try to link to things as I can if I'm referring to older videos, so look for that in the upper right hand corner. But as well, I'll try to come do some research and put some overlays on this video with where you can make these purchases. And in the case of something like Glassboard Studio, I have an everyday coupon that you can use to save 15%, and occasionally Glassboard Studio will bump that up to 20% savings, so you can use my discount code, and I'll try to put that on screen too. I don't want to say out loud what it is because I'll probably get it wrong because my discount code is so different from various different stores that offer them to me. So that's the Glassboard Studio mat. One of the cool things about it is that they haven't stopped with this mat. So the entire mat is completely magnetic because there's a metal sheet under about 1/4 of an inch of glass. There's the printed design, and they do make beautiful designs. If I didn't do video content for YouTube, I would probably be more inclined to pick something a little prettier. But I love the fact that you can pick for yourself a really gorgeous design and have like a really beautiful space to work on, and a bit of art really, because a lot of their especially their monthly designs, which they come out with as exclusives, are really pretty. So because it's a magnetic, there are so many different accessories that I feel are really helpful to me as I craft. So some things include this for storage. So you kind of have this hex system, and it does come with a variety of different compartments that you can, I just put this one in, but you can actually reconfigure these and kind of set them into whatever sort of honeycomb configuration you want, just depending on whatever your size constraints are. So these all have a really interesting kind of interlocking peg system that you can, I'm trying to fit this into 2 of them. So yeah, there you go. So you can see how they interlock like this, and just whatever your space constraints are or how you like to have things organized, you can configure this however you want. And this is one set. You get all of these different size little compartments, and of course you can get multiple sets, and then you have even more of these little storage wells to craft with or to configure, and you can use it however makes the most sense. Like for me, it makes the most sense to kind of line everything up, and then I just put it just out of camera view, but it's within arm's reach so that I have access to all of the tools and whatnot that I use on a regular basis, and it's easy to grab. There are also these various different size and sort of different shape pond magnets, or just magnets, because they come in this form factor where you have the ponds, which have a more more of a handle at the top, and this is sort of the new form factor for it, so it just gives you more to grip onto. And now they have them in wider, like different lengths or widths as well, so that's really cool. I happen to really like the 1 inch by 1 inch ones. I find them super useful, but they also have bar magnets, so they have a lower profile like this, and these are all really, really strong magnets, so you want to be careful with getting them a little too close to each other, because they will definitely attract each other and can pinch your finger if your finger is in the middle between them. But the bar magnet is really great. It has a nice kind of wide platform, and just it's a little bit lower profile. You can set things on top of this, which can be a nice option that you don't have with the pond magnets, because they do have this rounded shape on top. So just kind of different form factors, what works for you, what you prefer. There's also the mag rulers, and it comes in different lengths as well. So this is the 6-inch one. All of these, by the way, do come in different colors. There's a number, like a dozen or more different colors that you can get these in. Of course, you're seeing a lot of things in teal because that's my favorite color. So when I have the option, I choose teal. So that's why you see so many things in teal. And this is nice. It does have the ruler on here. And I would be inclined to use this as a measuring ruler more than I would use the gridded mat, because the gridded mat is actually below a 1/4 inch of glass. And so because the thing that you're measuring, you can't put right up against, those lines, just depending on like the angle that you're looking at it in, it actually might look like it's on the line because of the angle you're looking at it. But then if you look at it at a different angle, it's not really on the line anymore. So that's why it gets a little bit tricky, and why I don't necessarily use the grid on the mat itself. But I would be more inclined to use these markings, because you can put your paper right up against this, and so you can line it up, and it's touching the tick mark basically, so you've got a more precise measurement, and it's not dependent on trickery of the angle that you're looking at it. So that's really really nice. And I actually a lot of times what I use these magnets, because they're off screen, you don't know, because you don't see it, but I often use it to hold my dies and I use it to hold my my pokey tool. So those are things that, especially my Poke tool, I'm forever misplacing this, and I use it so often. So I've found that by putting it on one of my magnets, I haven't lost one yet. So knock on wood. And same with dies. So while I'm cutting, working on a project with, say, those were my add-on dies to the Easy Wonder die number 3. I kind of like having the magnets as a way to kind of just temporarily hang on to my dies as I am crafting with them, so that I don't lose them in the midst of crafting. So I love these accessories, and there's lots of different sizes of them, and of course lots of different colors. Now, more recently, some of the things that have come out are pretty exciting new accessories that are great if you're a paper crafter, because they've really thought about paper crafters, I think, when they came up with some of these. So this is the mag ink tray, which just came out this past October. You actually get it as a set of 2 like this, and these are magnetic, so they'll hold here. I feel like the magnet isn't quite as strong as these pawn magnets or the bar magnets or the mag ruler, but the purpose of them is so that you can actually set your ink pad in it. And the mag ink tray, there's actually 2 different types. There's the one that I'm showing, which is for your more full size ink pads, and then there's another one that is actually for your mini ink cubes. And with that one you can hold 4. Let me look to see what the name of it is. Because I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's the Mag Ink Quad Tray. And again, you get a set of 2 of them, and for the quad tray, you actually can hold 4 mini ink cubes. And the idea with these is that they're magnetic, so they'll stay, in place when you have it on your glassboard mat. And then that way, if you're doing some ink blending, for example, you can easily kind of pick up, re-ink your brush or your sponge, and then apply that ink, and then pick up more ink, and you don't have to, hold the ink pad steady. So it holds it there for you. I really feel like a lot of these accessories, especially the magnetic ones, they're like extra little hands for you, so that you don't have to either get inky fingers when you're doing some of these different techniques, and you can steady or secure your project. A lot of times what I like to do, especially if I'm doing stenciling, I just use my little pawn magnets. That's why I like the pawn magnets, the size of them, because you can even set it like in the middle, just depending on your stencil. Sometimes a stencil will have like an open design, and there's a spot in the center where you can maybe put a little pawn magnet and help to hold that down, as well as the paper that you're stenciling onto. And otherwise you can probably fit them around the edges to hold them down and secure them that way. But I like the little pawn magnets for that reason. I also use the pawn mags, you know how sometimes when you're like gluing something down and you want to give it some time to dry, like maybe you're using liquid glue on specialty paper, for example, and sometimes that takes like a little extra time, but you don't want it to budge while it's drying. In the past, I would try to set something heavy on top, but these days I just set a pawn magnet on there, because or my mag ruler, actually. I'll use one or both, just depending on how large of a area I want to secure. And it's not because these are heavy, these are light, but because they're such a strong magnet, it will, the downward force is actually a lot. And so it's actually going to do a really good job of holding something firmly down on your project to give it some time to dry. So that was just a little side note. These little mag ink trays, while they're for your ink blending, I use one of them just to hold, the dies that I kind of keep on my desk all the time. And so, whatever, right now I always have these two, which are my banner dies from the Easy Wonder add-ons. This is a die that I recently found, but I don't know what set it belongs to. So I'm keeping it here for safe storage until I can find out if you know. I've issued this as a request in multiple videos now. If you know where this belongs, let me know. I know it's a Spellbinders die, that much I know. And so the last die here just happens to be Meg's Gnome Universal die. But it's nice because it's magnetic. I don't have to worry about losing these. And I do also love that there's a little pour spout, so if you use these for embellishments, it's really nice. You can easily pour them back into their original storage container or baggie. And I do love that they stack also. So this is how I kind of leave things, because I use this ink so much to stamp sentiments with. I like to just have that stacked and right off to the side on my glass board, and then I can easily grab it. So another recent release by Glassboard is a set of these trays, which I think are pretty handy. And again, I don't always use a lot of these accessories kind of the way that they're designed to be, because like the mag ink tray, I don't do a ton of ink blending, so I have used it for that. I just don't often use it for that. And similarly with this, I do actually use this for kind of tidying up, and it's called a craft catcher because it's got a height to it and a very specific lip here that allows you to just set it to the side of your glass mat and easily just sweep your whatever scraps or little cuts, or if you're weeding a die cut, like my Easy Wonder die number 3 produces a lot of those little dots, and so I just like to weed it right onto my work surface here and then just sweep it all into one of these craft catchers. So I like leaving the small one. You can get this when you buy it. It's a set of 3 actually. This is the largest, and then there's a middle one in between. And I like to use the middle one and the large one for just storing stuff. So here's my system of things. For the larger one, I like to kind of put tools and whatnot. So it's an additional spot for tools that might not fit in the that hex storage system that I showed earlier. So things like the acrylic blocks that I use all the time, maybe some ink, sponges and blending brushes and whatnot. And so I like to just have this one larger tray for additional craft supplies that are easy to grab. And so I just put that right up against my Glassboard mat. And then this one, the medium sized one, I like to put die cuts, foam scraps, maybe some other tools that I want to make sure I'm not losing, extra of whatever I happen to be crafting at the time. If I have some extras like sentiment banners and whatnot, I'll just put them here, and that way I have some scraps that are, ready, easy to grab, ready to use. And every once in a while, if this gets too full and I'm not really using anything out of it, then it's easy enough for me to just kind of chuck it all into the recycling. But I'll leave it in this little tidy, this little craft catcher right off to the side of my mat, so it's easy to grab. This one I leave empty for its intended purpose of catching any scraps and just doing a nice sweep to tidy up my surface. So lots of new accessories, and I'm sure Glassboard Studio is going to continue to support their craft mat with even more accessories for us crafters. So love that. So that is work surface. Highly recommend. A lot of people have asked in the past, what size would I recommend? I'll tell you what size I have, and then my overall recommendation. The size that I have is the 18 by 24. I'll be honest, Glassboard Studios sent me an 18 by 24 mat. They let me choose, what color I wanted, but they offered an 18 by 24, and it really works nicely in my space, what space I have available. It also works really nicely for the purposes of creating video, because beyond my two hands here, which are the edge of what you see, I have about 3-4 inches to the left and 3-4 inches to the right, which is nice because then I can put stuff outside of camera view but within arm's reach. So that's really one of the considerations. Like I said at the very beginning, when I'm looking at supplies, I'm looking at it from the crafter point of view of actually using it, but also from the video content creator point of view. And so that size just happens to work really nicely for me. My recommendation overall for a lot of what I'm gonna tools and equipment that I'm recommending is to get the largest size thing that you feel like you would use, that would fit in your craft space and also fits in your budget. Because a lot of these bigger ticket items, you don't want to buy something too small, fall in love with it, and then have to buy a larger version. Because then what are you going to do with the smaller version? So if you started with, say, like the 9 by 11 and then absolutely, or 9 by 12 I think is what it is, and then you absolutely fall in love with it and you love using it, and now you want it to cover a little bit more of your work table, and then you upgrade to a larger size mat. How many times do you want to upgrade? I feel like this is definitely, in hindsight, if I had just bit the bullet and bought this for myself to begin with, I would not have spent so much money buying self-healing mats, buying the silicone mats, of which I have now multiples of, because especially for me and presenting video content, I like to have a nice, clean, presentable work surface. And with a self-healing mat, even though it's self-healing, you can still see the cut marks and stuff as you've cut on them. And you can cut on this, like I showed with the box cutter. I don't tend to recommend cutting on this because it is a slippery surface. I prefer to cut into something that has some grip to it so that you're less likely to like slip, and cut into something that you don't want to cut into, namely yourself. But you can cut onto this surface and it's not going to have scratches, and it's going to continue to look beautiful, and it's really easy to clean. So I've had to replace self-healing cutting mats multiple times, and those, especially at this size, are not the cheapest thing in the world. So ultimately, as even though this is a big ticket item, I think ultimately it would have saved me some money, particularly because I do video content, which again is not the average consumer out there. So if you're crafting as a hobby and you don't do videos, then that particular point is less important to you probably. But I do feel like I love this, and it would be a hard choice to, if I bought a smaller version, to justify upgrading to a larger one, because then what would I do with the smaller one? So it's better to just start, as big as you feel like you need, and maybe score yourself a deal. Or if we're past Black Friday and you're watching this video, you can use my coupon code, because every day that will save you 15%. So So do take advantage of that. The next big ticket item, and one that gets used, that I do a lot of, is die cutting. And I definitely recommend an electronic die cutting machine. In particular, if you do a lot of die cutting, or you love die cutting, or you do anything en masse, maybe you make to sell at craft fairs. I definitely feel like with die cutting, you can create, repetitive stress, strain, and injury to your body if you use a manual die cutting machine. I have felt it myself when I used a manual die cutting machine. Just that manual cranking, you can start to get wear and tear in your shoulders, maybe in your hands, and it's the sort of thing that you want to protect your body. You don't want your crafting to put strain and stress on your body unnecessarily. And so I find a electronic die cutting machine to be kind of essential in my craft room. I have two that I use, and I definitely love them both because of less, strain and whatnot on your body. But also, I kind of like just setting it, letting it do its thing, run through automatically. And then I have it might only be like a second or two, but it gives me that little bit of extra time to tidy up my surface, maybe get the next die cut ready. And I value that because I still work, and do other things besides crafting, and so I'm a slow enough crafter as it is, but so anywhere that helps to speed up the process is great for me. And if I can do something else in the same time that's happening, the die cutting is happening, then that also helps to speed up my crafting a little bit. So definitely appreciate that. I love my Crafter's Companion Gemini machine. It's electronic. It's the large A4 platform. It's big, so I'm not bringing it on camera, but these are the plates, and this is the plate combination I use, which is not their, recommended plate combination, but it's the one I use because this machine has so much die cutting pressure. I find that your plates are going to warp really fast if you use their original sandwich combination because it is it's just a lot of pressure. So the combination I use is the original Gemini plate, the original Gemini magnetic mat, then the Gemini. This is their plate for I think it's for their double-sided dies, but it's thinner than the plastic shim that is what they recommend otherwise. But it's like a stronger, I think, plastic, and so I use that in lieu of their plastic shim, and then I use a Craft First clear cutting plate to cut into. So the first Gemini plate, this is a cleaning plate. I don't cut into this. This is for thickness. But you can even see that even though I don't cut into this, there's so much pressure on the Gemini that even this plate warps. So I still, try to flip that and rotate it as much as possible. But this is the plate combination I use because it is a slightly thinner plate combo, and I feel like it's just enough pressure to cut everything that I needed to cut. Mostly what I'm using my Gemini for is my Easy Wonder die, because the Easy Wonder die is nearly 6x6, and so it really benefits from a larger machine. It will go through my 6-inch Big Shot just fine, but there's less opportunity to kind of put it on an angle, which helps when you're die cutting, especially, larger dies like this. And so that's why I like having the larger platform. But as I've been reviewing the Big Shot, I've only been using my Big Shot if I can. And I haven't used my Gemini machine, which I sorely miss. because the Big Shot, the one that I have, is a manual machine, and I'll be honest, as much as I love the Big Shot, once I've had a chance to really feel like I've used it enough to give a good recommendation or a final opinion on it, which I'm pretty close to doing. I love it. So as a manual machine, it's got a lot of pressure. More than, I think it almost rivals the Gemini machine, electronic machine, especially with the original plate combination, because those plates the Big Shot plate will warp pretty quickly, I have found. And so I look for ways to lessen the pressure on that too, so that it just helps you to preserve your plates, so that they last a little bit longer, and so that they just don't have as much wear and tear on them, and so that you're just not, especially on a manual machine, it's less pressure on you also. If you're running like a thicker sandwich through, it might take a little bit more effort, a little bit more force, and then put a little bit more strain on your body to crank those plates through. Less to worry about on an electronic machine, because you don't have to manually do anything. You just start feeding this through and the machine will grab it and automatically roll it through for you. But having a plate combination that's a little bit less pressure is good, because it just saves your plates a little bit and helps with the longevity of them. So definitely recommend an electronic die cutting machine if your budget affords, and if your space affords. Having the larger A4 size machine is great, because then you can pretty much cut anything and don't have to worry about size. And even if you don't actually have large dies, sometimes it is nice to have the large platform, because then you can fit a lot of dies. So if you're making a project where it's a lot of die cuts that get layered, you can fit a lot of dies onto that platform and just cut them all at the same time. The other electronic machine that I love, and I also really miss using because I've been reviewing the Big Shot and the Platinum Scout, is this one. This is another big recommendation of mine, is the Anna Griffin Empress Mini. This is the smaller of the two. I do think their large one, like the Empress, I think somebody will tell me in the comments, I think it is an A4 platform, so larger than your 6-inch machine. And so that too might be a good option. I'm just not out of the gates recommending the Anna Griffin Empress, like the full size, because I don't have it and I don't use it, so I don't know. Based on how much I love the Empress Mini, I would assume that it works really well, or just as well. The only thing that I know for certain is that the Gemini machine I've used with embossing folders, like the standard embossing folder and 3D embossing folders, and if you find the right plate combination, it works just fine with that. I don't know in terms of the Empress how easy or hard it is to use embossing folders in the regular full-size machine, because I haven't really used it for embossing at all. I use it for about 90%, the mini one, for about 90% of my die cutting. For quote a mini machine, the plates are big, and this is why this is kind of my big recommendation if you mostly make cards. I would say I feel like this fits just about most dies, but it won't fit my Easy Wonder dies. So keep that in mind, because my Easy Wonder dies are nearly 6 inches. So you do need at least a 6-inch opening die cutting machine. But if you don't have my dies and you're not a fan of my dies, then, or at least the Easy Wonder ones, then maybe that's not a consideration for you, because this I use pretty much for almost all of my other die cutting. And the only time I really have to turn to my Gemini is when I'm using my Easy Wonder dies, because it's big and it won't fit through this. The beauty of these plates is that it's 4¼ wide, so if you are using things like A2 cover dies, it's going to be really great for that, because it will fit that. And I will say, with electronic die cutting machines though, the big caveat, I guess, is if you have something like the Better Press or the Glimmer, those devices will not fit through electronic die cutting machines. So that's a little bit of a trade-off, and so I do still find it necessary to have a manual machine to accept the Better Press and the Glimmer machine, because you have to have a die cutting machine to use those accessories. So there is that consideration as well if you're choosing a manual versus an electronic die cutting machine. And if you only have room in your craft room for one machine and you want to give yourself the most open opportunities for using some of those other tools and equipment, then you probably want to turn to a manual machine. But otherwise, if you don't have those other accessories, the Glimmer or the Better Press, or you already have another machine and you're looking at getting an electronic machine, I definitely recommend the Empress Mini, because it's a nice large plate for, quote, a mini machine. This can really cover most dies, even your A2 cover dies. And it works beautifully, and it cuts really well, and the plate holds up really well. Not a single curvature in this. It's still flat, probably as flat as the day it came. And I've cut into this a lot, like I said. Until I started reviewing the Big Shot, 90% of my die cutting was on this machine. And so over the course of time, though, I do have to tell you this. I've had to start shimming things a little bit, but otherwise your normal plate combination is pretty simple. It's just 2 cutting plates and the magnetic mat. Now over time, my magnetic mat, this has happened to it. So if I line it up and it's nice and square in this corner, you can see it's warped a little bit, and it's warped like a good 1/4 of an inch. I mostly cut into my plastic cutting plate because just generally that's going to get you a cleaner cut over time. If you're having a hard time cutting through something and you're cutting into like a magnetic mat or the magic mat from scrapbook.com, for example, this being softer, it's not going to have as much resistance against the cutting edge of the die, and so you might not get as clean of a cut, or it may not cut through. Where it's the exact same sandwich, if you just change it to cut into the plastic plate as opposed to your magnetic mat, then you might get it to cut through. And that's just a matter of not just the pressure or the plate combination, but just the material that you're cutting into. And I have, on occasion, I do obviously cut into my magnetic mat. And I think that's what's caused it to flatten over time, because, you know, it's more pressure getting exerted, where a plastic plate might start to curve on you. How this is distributing or handling that extra pressure or stress is to just flatten, because it's a softer material. So it's flattening over time and lengthening over time, because that it's the same mass. It's just, you know, more pressure gets exerted here, so it's just flattening, kind of like a pasta roller will flatten and stretch out your pasta. That's kind of what's happening here. So over time, what I've felt I've needed to do is add some shims. So I add the metal shim, which does come with the machine, and then I think I add 2 paper shims by default, just to become my new sandwich, standard sandwich. And then sometimes I have to throw like an extra paper shim on top. That's only because this has flattened and has reduced the thickness of the overall sandwich, and so there's less pressure. Once I'm looking for a deal on the magnetic mat, so if you catch or see this going on sale, can you just let me know? Because I'll replace this. I just am looking for a deal. Or for it to be in stock at SBC. Or really what I would actually love most, I don't know anyone at scrapbook.com, but if anyone from scrapbook.com is watching, or if you know somebody at scrapbook.com, I'm waiting for them to do a magic mat for the mini Empress, because I know they sell the mini Empress on their website, and I hope it becomes one of the sizes that they offer, because they make a special one for the Spellbinder's Scout machine, and that's a very super unique size that's only for the Scout. So I would love for them to make a magic mat for the Anna Griffin mini Empress, because those last forever. I love my magic mats. And now that they have a magnetic one, you have the benefit of, using the magnetic side or the self-healing side. So I really love that. So that's the Anna Griffin mini Empress electronic die cutting machine. Love it. But the reason why I have to kind of stretch a little bit to put that away is because I have been reviewing the Sizzix, their new Big Shot, and I do have to say I kind of love it. I do. I was really, really surprised by I have a first look video on this too if you want to check out that and my initial impression of it. But one of the things that I really like about it is how much pressure it has, and the plate combination is pretty simple, but I will say it doesn't come with all the things. So there if you do some of the more specialized things, then you might find yourself having to buy additional adapters. So for example, it does not come with the metal shim like the mini Empress does. The Gemini does too. I think by default it comes with the metal shim. It does not come with the squishy embossing mat. So if that's something that you like to do, emboss with your dies, then you won't find that out of the box. Truth be told, I rarely use that squishy mat ever, really. So if it saves me a little bit of money out of the gates, I don't mind it not being included. I do feel like the metal shim though comes in handy a lot. So it's I feel like it's a little bit of a bummer that it was not included, because an intricate die, I feel like you're more likely to come across an intricate die that might benefit from that metal shim as compared to embossing with your dies, which I feel like is not a technique that a lot of people often do, and not a technique that a lot of dies are designed for either. So there is that, but I guess it's easy enough to find other things to shim with, like cardstock. So maybe it is also kind of nice that the price tag on it doesn't include those extra things, because either they're not commonly used, or there's alternatives that are accessible and less spendy. But it does come with everything that you would need for your standard kind of die cutting and embossing, and the fact that you can use it with the Better Press and with the Glimmer machine if those are things that you want to do down the road, or you already have and you're looking to maybe upgrade your die cutting machine. I would definitely recommend the new Sizzix Big Shot. I do love that it's flat here. That's one of the things that, one of the usability improvements that they've made to the Big Shot as compared to the original. The form factor of it, I feel, is a big improvement. And I like having, a place to set my plates and set other things also. Now, when I use this, I do tend to, you can get the magic mat that is sized for it. When I got my magic mat, I bought it for my Cuttlebug because Cuttlebug, it's been discontinued for a while now, so it was hard to find the original plates for it. And so I just used the magic mat that was designed to still fit through your Cuttlebug, and it works fine with this. It's just not as long as the plates are for the Big Shot. But that works fine. It helps to reduce the pressure a little bit, because I will say that with the Big Shot, it's a lot of pressure. This has a lot of die cutting pressure, which is a good thing. But what that's going to mean is that your plates are there's going to be a lot of wear and tear on your plates. I haven't even had this for very long, but you can see I've cut into it a lot. I always flip and rotate. I cut into it with my Easy Wonder dies a lot. You can see as you're rolling, this is a manual machine. There is a handle. You can see as it's rolling through, like I can visually see the plate bending as it's going through the machine. And so it's very, very obvious how much pressure is getting exerted. The rollers are here, so this is where the most pressure will be. And as it's coming through, I'm not gonna put a full sandwich through. As it's coming through, it goes through like this, and I can see this bending upwards. So when you are die cutting and you're using a machine with that much pressure, it's really critical that you flip this up and down, because it will always tend to bend upwards as pressure is getting placed, right here in the middle. It's going to bend like this up. And so if you're always cutting on this side and it's always bending up, you're going to introduce a more and more of a curve in your plates. So to reduce that, you flip to the other side, and now it's going to bend up and correct the previous bend. And then hopefully you can help to keep it a little bit more flat over time. But what I've been doing lately is, one, using the magic mat and cutting into the magic mat, because generally it's going to save your plates over time, because this is a self-healing mat, whereas your plastic plates are not self-healing. But like I said, there might be some dies, like especially your more intricate ones, or like my Easy Wonder die cuts better into the plastic than into a magic mat. And so there will be times where you'll still want to cut into plastic. But the beauty of the magic mat is, one, it's self-healing, but two, it's actually a little bit thinner, and so it's going to be a little bit less pressure, which will make it, when you're manually cranking this through, it's going to make it a little bit easier on your body to crank it through. So I feel like that's an important consideration if you do a lot of die cutting. This, again, feels like it's just enough pressure to die cut and not put a lot of extra strain on your body. Let me see. I did talk about this in a video once, but I don't know that I've given an update on it. But these circular cutting plates, I can't find the second one that I have. They come in, okay, I have to tell you, they come in a set of 2 if you buy the actual Sizzix plates. But here we go. I found a set of 8 on Amazon that's like makes them a fraction of the price. And I don't know if it's the same as the ones that Sizzix sells. So I'm just going to caveat to you right now that this is a generic, an off-brand of the circular cutting plates. But like I said, I got it as a set of 8 on Amazon. It has a slight bevel to it, and then it's perfectly flat on the other side. And the benefit of this is that, well, I think there's a couple of benefits, to be honest. The first is that it's small. So why is that a benefit? Well, typically if you're die cutting and you have 2 full plates, you kind of need to, oh, this is too thick, hold on, I need to take out a plate. You kind of need to, if you had like a regular sandwich, it would look like this with your dies and your paper in the middle. And so you would kind of feed it through like this, and you kind of have to crank it all the way through until the whole platform, all the plates, everything passes out from the rollers. But the benefit of using something like this is that just that small plate needs to get done passing through. So you just need to roll it, you know, however many inches this is. 4 inches? No. About 3.5. So instead of having to roll the entire, this plate is just under 9. Instead of having to roll 9 inches all the way through, you just need to roll 3.5 inches and then you're done. So that's fewer cranks. So if we're talking a manual machine and just saving your body wear and tear, having these smaller plates, whatever they are, I mean, you can get the small little mini plates that are from Sizzix, the rectangular ones, that would work fine too, and would serve the similar benefit of just fewer rotations to get it to clear the machine. And I have found that most dies will fit under one of these 2. So this one is 5 inches. That one is 3.5. And you can see how much I've cut into it. I have cut into it both top and bottom. They say to use it in this orientation like this because it's beveled on this end, so that means that when it's first going through the rollers, it's like a nice easy ramp up, so it feeds a little bit easier. That's true, but really I cut with it upside down too, just so that, because these plates, they will also tend to curve on you a little bit and bend a little bit, just because there's a lot of pressure. I mean, this is a nice die cutting machine. There's a lot of pressure, and that means a lot of pressure is a good thing because it means that it's gonna give you cuts, and it'll cut through with most every die and paper combination you may have, without you necessarily having to shim. But like I said, I like to just try to have a combination of things that's just enough but not too much pressure, so that it saves on wear and tear of the plates and my body as well as I'm cranking it through. The other thing that is what Sizzix says about their plates, these are not the Sizzix plates, but they look an awful lot like them. But what Sizzix has said about their plates, and conceptually I can see how it would apply to these as well, is that because it's circular, you're kind of feeding it through every single which, way, multiple degrees through. Like I was telling you before, when this plate goes through, the roller is here and it's putting pressure here. The most pressure is getting applied under the roller, and it's a bar that goes all the way across like this. So just think of it as a metal roller inside, and it's like my ruler. It's like the length of the ruler. It looks like that. So it's going to put pressure in a line like this. And when it puts pressure in a line like that, these rectangular plates, let's just use the Magic Mat because I can bend this. It curves, like I said, like this. So it's always curving along this edge, and so you can only flip it back and forth like this, and it'll bend like this, and unbend if you're flipping regularly, and that's what's going to keep it kind of straight. But because you always feed it in this one way, it always exerts pressure along this axis. That's different with a circular plate, because when you feed your circular plate through, you have 360-degree rotation, and so it's not likely that it's always exerting pressure on the exact same axis on a circular plate, because just the odds of you doing that are low because it's completely circular, and so you're likely to just feed it in whichever way you're grabbing it, and that's likely to be different than the last time you fed this through. And so it will help to keep your plate flat over time. I have found that it feels like it introduces a little bit of a curve, but maybe it doesn't. I'm not too sure. But it's working really well. I mean, it does still look like it's pretty flat. And it cuts really nicely. It is just enough pressure to cut, and I particularly I haven't used this one a ton. I do feel like the 5-inch one does work for the majority of the dies that I use, and that's why you see so many cuts through it. I mean, you can see I've obviously tested and used the large plate a lot too, and I've been cutting into the Magic Mat more and more as well. But I do like it a lot, these circular plates. And if you want to get the Sizzix one, just so that you can have the proper one that goes with the machine, I did notice it's back in stock on SBC. So it is available. I only honestly got these because I was looking for the other ones, but it was out of stock both at SBC and Sizzix on their website. I couldn't get it in the two places I mostly shop for Sizzix things. And it wasn't even online on Amazon either, the Sizzix brand plates. And that's when I finally went to Amazon to search for it. That's when I found the generic one. And you could get a set of 8 of them. So 4 pairs. So you would have 4 pairs, 4 of this size, 4 of that size. These plates are holding up really well. I don't even know that I'm gonna need to go to those other plates because these are holding up really well. They're not warping. And these plates for me are really unlikely to crack over time. I haven't really had a plate crack on me. It's more when it gets so warped and you can't save it, you can't get it to flatten out for the life of you. That's usually when I've had to toss plates in the past. The only time I've had a plate actually crack on me is I used to use as my primary machine the Spellbinders, the Platinum machine, but I have the Fun Stampers Journey one because I have their old school one. And when Spellbinders took in Fun Stampers Journey, they kept the machine, the Platinum machine. And so that's the only time I've had a plate crack on me. And that was after 5 years of use. That plate finally gave in. But otherwise, plates don't generally crack in my experience. They just warp, a lot. But these seem to be holding up really well. With proper flipping, this has held up pretty well too. You can see this plate is pretty straight. It's not, for as much as I visually see it curving, if you do the right thing and you're flipping and you're cutting into different areas, it can stay pretty flat. But I've only been using it for maybe a month or so now, so it hasn't really stood necessarily the test of time, but it's so far I like it a lot and I recommend it for sure. So if you're looking for a machine that has a lot of pressure right out of the gates, that would be compatible for something like the Better Press, like the Glimmer machine, I definitely recommend the Big Shot, and I definitely recommend some kind of circle cutting plates because I find these to be very convenient and useful, especially because they basically turn your big machine into like a mini machine in the sense of how quickly you can roll something through and have it come out the other end. So a lot of times, that's not the only benefit of a mini die cutting machine, because those smaller machines are really nice and portable if you need to take them to in-person craft events and whatnot. But one of the benefits I find, even though I don't go to in-person events much, is those mini machines have the added benefit of just being fast. You can just quickly crank something out, have it come out the other end, and then you're quickly underway with your project. And so that is one of the things that's nice. So these smaller circular plates kind of turn your big machine into like a mini cutting machine for that benefit anyhow. So I do love that. One downside to this is that it doesn't fold up, so it does take up this footprint, this real estate in your craft space. So you do kind of have to find a home for it, where you have the space for it, and that might be a consideration as well. But like I said at the beginning, this is a video for if budget isn't a constraint, size isn't a constraint, then these are the things that I would recommend. So that is my recommendation for die cutting. Okay, next up, stamping. So you probably don't, this might be a surprise to some people, because you probably don't see me pulling this on camera to use very often. But if I had to just pick one, and size, space, price was not a consideration, this is the one I would pick. There's maybe a couple few reasons why I would pick this. Even if you don't see me using it on camera a lot, I do use it off camera to do a lot of prepping, and I like it for a variety of reasons. The first is that it works really well. It works really well. You get accurate, precise stamping, which means you can stamp in the same spot time and time again, which is the whole point of a stamp positioning tool, because if you can't get a perfect stamped impression the first time, it's nice to have a tool that allows you to stamp a second time and really get a nice complete or a nice dark stamped outline, if that's what you're going for. And so it works. First and foremost, it needs to work at the thing that it's supposed to be good at doing, and this does for sure. But what I feel puts it above and beyond some of the other popular stamp positioning tools is, like I said, if you only have room, only want to have like one tool, you don't want all of these like duplicative tools in your craft room, because I actually have separate videos comparing all of my mini die cutting machines, all of my mini stamp positioning tools, all of my mini paper trimmers. But keep in mind that I make videos to share with you here on YouTube. A lot of times I'll buy things for review purposes, and sometimes, if I'm lucky, companies will even send me products for review. So part of why I have so many different things that do the same function is because of that, because I create content for my channel. But also part of why I'm where I'm at is, over the years, I've always had this mentality of like starting cheap and then, upgrading if I need. And sometimes I have the mentality of sometimes, the cost of what you're paying for is the name brand, where other maybe more generic things function the same, like the circular cutting plates. I will often try to get like an alternative that might be a little bit friendlier on the budget if I think that it will essentially do the same thing. It's not always the case that that cheaper things are just as good. Sometimes they're just cheaper things. So bear that in mind. This is one of the cases where it's a it's a heavier price tag, but it does the job really, really well. And then there's these other added benefits. So it's large. So if you stamp or you create larger projects, it's nice to have a larger platform space to stamp in. So this is 9x9. It's going to cover, I would wage, 95% of your stamping needs. It even has, because the 2.0 is one of their improvements to it, one of their advertised improvements is the removable wall, so you can have an even larger piece of paper here without worrying about bending your paper. It can just extend right off the edge, this one edge anyhow, because that's removable. I hardly really use that, to be honest. But that is a benefit. It comes with the grip mat. So there's a really nice grip mat here. My guess is that this is photopolymer because it's got a really nice low tack stickiness to it. So that means that you can put your, your cardstock right in here, and it's pretty grippy enough for you to stamp on. And if this does get a little dusty, a little grimy, really easy. It's really easy to clean it. You just give it a little spritz, and you can wipe it down. Now, why is that great? So there's a couple reasons why it's great that it's included. The first is that then you don't have to buy anything extra. And then the other thing that makes it really great is if you do like your stenciling, ink blending, you can use this as a surface for that too. Because it can grip your paper, and then it can grip your stencil as well. So like this is a stencil that I designed for Barely Art Craftmas, and so it's nice and grippy so that it can grip the paper, it can grip my stencil, and now I can ink blend and I don't have to hold those things down. So now you have like a nice surface to actually craft on as well. And I do love that there's some really nice like silicone or rubber feet down here. So if you do, like me, work on a glass mat, those are nice and grippy, so this is not moving, and that's because it's got that those grippy feet. And so that's really nice too, if you're working with this on top of a slippery surface. It's nice and grippy, so it holds steady, and then this will hold steady. So now you kind of have a multi-purpose tool in this stamping platform. It's got a nice large surface, like you can see, so it can take some of these larger stencils, and you can see how nice that sticks down. Like that's well stuck down, and it's not sticky because it's got adhesive. It's just sticky because photopolymer is by nature a little bit grabby. And so I love it for that, and it's not anything extra that you have to pay for, so it comes included, and you have that nice surface to work on. So that's reason number 2. It works really well. It comes with a grip mat. Oh, that's reason number 4, I guess. The size of it's nice and large. The grip mat makes it multi-purpose, so you can do blending techniques and you can stencil and stuff and use it for that purpose. And then it also has a unique radial lines on the plate that your stamp gets adhered to when you go to stamp. And so then that means that you can do wreath designs. So if you like to do those like circular wreaths and create your own sort of wreath, you can do circular stamping with this. So you would place your various different designs using the radial lines and the circles as a guide. And then when you go to stamp, how this registers so that you're stamping in the right spot every time is based on these corners. And so that's why there's this weird edge to the plate here. It's not rectangular because it's meant to fit into these corners. And then when you rotate, it's, some certain number of degrees that's identical with each rotation. And that helps you to create a uniform, perfect wreath, if that's what you want to do. So there's a lot of specialized tools just to do wreath or circular stamping. And it's built into this one. So I love it for that reason. It's becoming more and more of a multi-purpose tool because you've got the grip mat that you can do your blending, stenciling onto, and now you can do circular wreath stamping with it. What I use it for a lot is when you have those multi-layer stampings, when you have those stamps that you can basically help you to color in an image, but through stamping. Usually there's sometimes 3, 4, 5 different stamps that color like a different area or add, shadow and whatnot to a stamped image. I will use this so that I can fit, like if it's 4 stamps, for example, I'll have my paper, whatever I'm stamping onto in one spot, stamp layer number 1, pick this up, rotate, position stamp number 2, pick that up, and then give this number 2 impression, rotate, and then I'll put, if it's 4 layers stamping, I'll put all 4 layers eventually onto this plate. And then that way I can do multiples of that. And then all I have to do is just swap out the paper at the bottom. If I'm putting the paper, like if it's registered in the corner, for example, you can always, register your paper here, always put your paper here, and then put your stamp wherever you need, and then just rotate layer number 1, layer number 2, layer number 3, and then when you complete one, you can take this out, put another piece of paper in, and then quickly do a second version, maybe in a different colorway and different set of colors. Or if you make en masse and you need to stamp out a lot of those, you don't have to keep taking, changing out your stamps. You don't have to keep taking one out, positioning it, the next one, and then stamping that out. Certainly there's like efficiencies where if you are doing creating en masse, you can just stamp layer number 1 20 times or whatever, and then take that out the one time, swap it in for layer number 2. So there's ways to do it efficiently. I just like being able to rotate, have all my stamps here, rotate it, and create different colorways and different options, because that's often what I do off screen with this. Is I'll create, if it's a layered stamping, I'll create it in one set of colors and then give myself some options and create 1 or 2 different variations in different colorways. And so I really like it for that. Now it does have this weird shape plastic plate with the weird edges, so storage for this is a little bit different and tricky because the platform itself is square but the plate isn't, and so if you were to store it like upright on a shelf, you would need a little bit of extra clearance for this. It is larger in general, so storage again might be an issue with having the larger plate, and the larger platform. But I just really like it. I feel like if I could only choose one to have in my craft room, I would choose this one because it fits so many purposes, leaves you open for a lot of opportunity, like the wreath stamping, multi-layer stamping, and it works really well as a stamp positioning tool. You can really hit the mark consistently, time and time again. So that's first and foremost, that it does the thing it's supposed to do well, and this for sure does. So I love a lot of other stamping platforms that you probably see me use on camera more often because they're smaller, and for like everyday crafting, I use those all the time. But if I could only have one, this would be the one. So that's stamp positioning tools, the Altenew stamp wheel. And I'll try to put links to everything in the description box below and all of that jazz if you're looking for it. All right, so next up, if we're talking scoreboards, then the one that I use and recommend, if I could only choose one, is this one. This is the We Are Makers all-in-one tool, and there's like 10, 12 some odd functions on this, but truth be told, I don't really use all of them. I use this mostly for scoring and paper trimming. Now, the scoreboard only scores out to 6 1/8. But one of the things I really like about this is that you can pull this out, and that extends your measuring here. And I like when it extends it really extends this whole thing. It's all flush, it's all lined up. And the fact that it even has grooves in the plastic, you can really tell that you've lined it up at the right place. So I really appreciate that, because if you're trying to, and you need to be very precise for whatever your project is, I don't look to line it up with the drawn lines on the plastic, because there's thin lines and then there's thick lines. So then, like, where exactly are you aiming within that line? I aim, especially when you get to the extended part, I actually aim for where the groove is that's in the plastic, because that's a very thin groove that they've made. Now on the scoring track side, this is a fatter groove because of where your scoring tool needs to go, but I just aim for something in the middle, of the groove. And of course, because it's a scoreboard, on this end of things, you can just line it up with this line, your actual scoring track. And so I love it for that. If you are scoring, then you want this so that it has the wall. You can butt your paper up against it. But it is a multi-purpose tool, so you can also use this as a paper trimmer. And you would just flip this piece around so that your cardstocks can now extend past the cutting line. And then you would just use this. It's a V-blade cutter. It won't last forever. So this is a consumable part that you will need to replace over time. And you can cut, and you should cut pulling downwards and pushing upwards, because it's a V, meaning there's a sharp blade on this edge and on that edge. And you want to exercise both just so that you get the most out of your blades. But I love this a lot. I use it a lot. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that you do have to replace this. So there's like a cost to using it over time. It's not just, oh, you bought the tool and you don't need to ever replace anything, or there's no consumable aspect to it. This is consumable, so over time you will need to buy more of these. But I find that now that I use other paper trimmers, namely my guillotine, I haven't had to replace this quite as often. If you only have to choose to have one scoreboard and one paper trimmer, it is nice that this is kind of all built into one product, and that definitely saves you space. So when you have like a multi-purpose tool like this one, like the Altenew stamp wheel that can do like a couple things and they do them really well, it becomes a nice space saver as well for you in your craft room. And this is definitely a tool that I use a lot, and you see me using this on camera a lot. If you make your own envelopes, there's even an envelope maker, there's a bow tire, there's hole punch, tab punch, you know, things like that. So lots of functionality built into this. Now, if you have the space for, or you do a lot of paper cutting, I would definitely recommend a guillotine. It's going to get you the sharpest cuts, and it's kind of a self-maintaining blade here. You don't actually need to change this out over time because of how it works. It holds its edge better over time than than one of those smaller trimmers. And so once you have a guillotine, unless you've accidentally cut through something that nicks, you know, puts an actual nick or something into the blade, if you're just cutting paper over time, you're not going to need to change out that blade over time. It's going to hold up. And I have, as many people know, a lot of paper trimmers in my craft room. So I've got my Fiskars guillotine, which is the nice 12-inch one that I really love. That one has held up for 10 plus years, I would say. So I don't want to say how long, but it's basically the first trimmer that I got. And as with, I find, you know, especially like getting into doing video production and, you know, putting content out, I've been getting smaller and smaller things because they fit on camera better. And so you'll often see me when I'm doing a video, I try to reach for the smallest size thing I can fit on camera, that's gonna fit the bill for me. And so that's why I have over time gotten these other size trimmers. So this is another Fiskars one. The two Fiskars ones I bought, I like having the 12-inch one, but I got this smaller one, which is a 6-inch blade, but only measures out to 4. I wish it had a final tick mark for 4 1/4, because that would make cutting my, really I wish it went out to 5.5 at least, because then I could get my cuts for A2 panels. That's why I tend to use this one more often, because the Spellbinders one will cut a full, 8.5, so you can fit your letter, US letter size cardstocks through here, and then it goes out to, the final tick mark is 6 1/8. So you can get your A2 panels cut down. You can even cut your A2 card bases with this as well. So it's great for that as well. So whatever size projects or papers you tend to cut most often, I would just pick the size trimmer that is going to cover you for the majority of your needs or all of your needs, because nobody needs to have quite as many trimmers as I do, but I do prefer if you need like a nice clean cut that doesn't ever have like little fuzzies or anything, because with the paper trimmers, any V-blade trimmer needs to get replaced over time. And when it starts to dull, it's going to, instead of like cut through your paper, it's gonna start to crush your paper, and it's not going to yield like a nice clean cut. It'll start to create like a little edge of fuzzies, which you can easily sand down if it bugs you. but it's just one of those things that over time you're going to need to replace if you want to maintain those nice sharp cuts. And that's just not going to be the case with the guillotine. It will hold its edge and it will continue to make those nice sharp cuts. And I really like it for that. Plus it's really nice, easy way to get precise cuts too. So that is paper trimmers. And I would say probably the next thing that I would recommend for, and if you had asked me years ago if this would make the list on my must-haves, I would have not believed it, because I always kind of thought, how much really do we need a device for dispensing glue? But I have to say, this does change things quite a lot in terms of if we're talking like fatigue and, really taking care of your body and whatnot. If you have any sort of hand finger strain, sometimes, and in particular with some glue bottles, because of the hardness of their plastic bottle, it can actually be quite a lot of strain to squeeze glue out. And I didn't really think about that as being the case because I don't really have, hand dexterity issues, but there was a period of time where I was making a lot of something. It must have been a mini album or something, and I was using a lot of liquid glue, and I really felt kind of carpal tunnel issues, which I do a lot of typing, but I've never really been diagnosed with carpal tunnel. And but I was finding that I was feeling a lot of fatigue in my right hand, particularly because that's my dominant hand. And it was, I speculated it was due to gluing and using a glue bottle and that sort of pressure that you would normally use. Now, since I've started to use the glue press, I have not had those issues. And in large part, it's because you have this gun-like mechanism and you can use all four fingers and your full hand to grip instead of just, maybe 2 or 3 fingers. And this glue bottle is actually barely art, so it's really actually not that much of a strain to to push the glue through that. But some glue bottles are a lot thicker and a little bit harder to squeeze the glue out of. But this is really nice because it's got the nice trigger action, and that will actually, as you push the trigger, you can see it lifts like this, and it's the thing that's pushing and putting pressure on the glue bottle to squeeze it out. So it's really nice. It saves your hand from any strain and stress. And it's really convenient because your glue bottle tips downward, so the glue is always at the bottom. I never recap it. I do sometimes get a little bit of a glue, kind of dried glue at the bottom here. But if it's set properly, if it's set properly in the holder, the tip would touch that little, this little silicone nib here. And that should help to create a little bit of a seal here so that the next time you go to use it, it is ready to go. I find that nice and convenient as well. Sometimes it gets clogged, and then you just have to kind of stick, a needle into the opening. But I find that if that happens, it's not like a huge inconvenience, and I don't mind it too much because that's that can happen in any case, especially if you're not using like barely art glue with one of their needles. It could happen with any glue bottle. Like in the past, I used these a lot because you can get a nice fine tip, and I don't typically put a needle in it. I just have it just like this. And oh, this has some pressure because that sort of came out, some glue came out. But yeah, so I use it all the time now. And you probably know that if you've watched my videos, because it does get featured in my videos a lot just as an everyday item. And that's because I find it really valuable as a craft supply. So much so that I love my 3D Kalal glue. It's the 3D glue gel that I use. And before, I used to use it in little syringes. And then when I found that this sort of gun mechanism is really nice and, friendly on the hands and all of that, I looked to find something that I could put a thicker glue into with a wider tip and opening. And I found this on Amazon. Initially, when I got my first one, it was something like $8. And I looked to find, because somebody asked for a link to it, I found another one. They sell for like $11 or $12. So now I have two. And I just keep two loaded. Because you can really only put about that much of the glue gel in. Because it gets so thick, it can be hard to fill much more than that. And it works the same. It's on a nice trigger mechanism. When you pull on the trigger, it has teeth in this plastic black piece here, and it just advances that, which pushes this forward. And it's really nice. So now I have glue guns per se for pretty much all of my most used liquid glues. And if we are speaking glue guns, then of course the advanced tape glider is another as a tape gun for your dry adhesive tape. Definitely another kind of glue dispenser type of product that I feel is this one less so for the ergonomic benefits of it, more so because you can put so much tape on the roll here. So it's going to last a lot longer than, say, like a smaller tape runner. But overall, I'm a big fan of tape runners. They're just a lot easier, faster than something like a paper tape. Because this, you kind of have to stretch it, tear it, and then lift the liner. Whereas these, you don't have to do any of that. You just roll it right on, and then you're good to go. There's no liner. It's double-sided adhesive, and if you use it quick enough, because there is always like a little bit of exposed dry adhesive, like everything that's come off the line here, all of that's exposed to air, so it is actively losing some of its stickiness as it's being exposed to air like that. So there is that as a downside to something like this, which is all of the adhesive is protected by liner, and it doesn't get exposed to air until you peel it off of this. So this ultimately will probably last a little bit longer in terms of just sitting around in your craft room. But if you are using this often enough, just having that a little bit exposed to air, not the end of the world. If you're crafting and you want to make sure you've got a little bit of insurance that your project is going to be well adhered, then you can always just add a touch of liquid adhesive to help with the permanency of it. And then that should kind of really remove any concerns. So Barely Art glue, I really love. If you're looking for just a more budget-friendly alternative, Lenco pH Neutral would be my top choice for a more affordable glue, because you can get that in big supply, and it's got all the good properties that you would want in any glue. Low water content, making it easy, quick grabbing. It is Lenco pH Neutral is also acid free, so good for mini albums, anything where you don't want to create yellowing over time. The only thing I will say with Lenco pH neutral glue versus Barely Art is that the line coat glue tends to be more liquidy, so I don't think it's going to work as well in this. This really benefits from a glue that is, it's got to be the right consistency so that it's not so liquidy that it's going to drip out of here without the pressure of, being squeezed on. And also when it's tipped upside down like this in the holder, that it's not running out. So you do need a glue that has just the right consistency, and I find this is what Barely Art glue is what's loaded into my glue press all the time. So this is definitely my preferred glue with the glue press. But if I'm just looking for like a very wallet friendly glue that's high quality, Lenco pH neutral would be the one. It's the one that a lot of bookbinders use. But usually with bookbinding, they're brushing it on, it's usually used when you're doing the binding for covers, for example. And so they, in that application, prefer something that's a little bit more liquidy so that you can brush it like you would brush, paint, for example. So all that to say that it's still pretty quick grabbing, because usually the looser glue is, that means it's got a little bit higher water content, which means that you might have more potential for warping, or if you're using thinner papers that it might wrinkle your papers a little bit, or that you might see potentially some glue lines come through where it's sort of kind of absorbed into your paper and made it a little bit kind of soggy or whatever so that you can see the glue through it. So there's that potential, but with any liquid adhesive. But Lenco is actually not so watery that you have to worry about those issues. I still find it to be a really good adhesive because like I said, bookbinders use it. So if it created those issues in bookbinding, it wouldn't be the preferred choice for bookbinders, because usually folks who are hand making and hand binding their own books, they're creating something that they want to be used over time, hold up over time, relative to maybe a greeting card, for example. So that's just the reality of, just the application and, who's using it, think of it in those ways. So that's why when I've seen so many bookbinders on YouTube, for example, using Lenco pH neutral, I really, and that's where I first discovered it, is watching bookbinding videos. And so I know that if they're using it and that's their choice, then it is a top-notch, high quality glue. And through my own use, I found it to be that as well. It's just, by comparison with something like Barely Art glue, it is a little bit more liquidy. So I think that just about wraps up the major craft supplies. That might be sort of some of the bigger ticket items. So if you're shopping for the holidays for your crafty loved ones, and looking to find a gift for them or for yourself as a crafter, maybe with Black Friday coming up, you might get a deal on some of these things. There are some stores and brands where they've offered me coupon codes so that you can shop every day and not have to wait for a sale. So like Glassboard Studio, Barely Art, I have a coupon code. All of that will be in the description box below. And I tried to share those out to my YouTube posts, community posts, and in all of my videos where I can. I've been trying to put my coupon codes that way. If it's just, any time of year and you're just looking to maybe replenish your stash with some of these things, then those are the places that you can readily look. So just open any video and I'll try to have whatever coupon codes that I have. They will be affiliate links as well. If you do shop using my links, definitely big time thank you to you. It helps to support me and it doesn't cost anything extra for you because the affiliate commission that I'm paid is already built into the price that you're paying. So I think that just about wraps up the top picks for my big ticket items, the craft supplies that I feel I use a lot or are essential in my craft room. I'm going to have another video that's a more budget-friendly version of this one. So maybe if you're just getting into crafting and you don't know yet how much you want to spend, or maybe you're just looking to pick up a nice gift for the crafter in your life, or you would like to see a crafty or a friend of yours become a crafty friend and you want to get them into crafting, but you don't know yet if they will love it as a hobby, more budget-friendly options might be the way to go. So stay tuned for that video, and I'll have a third holiday gift guide just for some fun accessories and other craft supplies that I find really useful, even if they aren't the most essential craft supplies. Maybe they're a little bit more specialized depending on the type of crafter you are. So look for that video as well. Thank you so much for checking out this one, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.